Have you ever wondered why someone keeps on gambling despite losing everything? I used to ask myself that too, until I realized it was just never about the money. It was about what was happening inside my brain. Gambling had rewired my brain in ways that I didn't even notice. This is the psychology of a gambler, my psychology. Let's take it back to the first high. The first time that I gambled, my first time, and I didn't understand this at the time, but my brain felt something that it had never felt before. I experienced a violent hit of dopamine. It was a lot of dopamine. It was not excitement. It was not happiness. No, it was the dopamine, the chemical that says do it again. See, I had never gambled in my entire existence. So it was my first time putting in that 2 rand bet and getting a lot of money, winning that. It did something to my brain, something that I had never experienced before. It felt like a high. Well, I didn't know by then that it was a dopamine hit. I was not aware of it. I was not even aware that this was going to be the trap. You see, that first win, it creates a memory so powerful that my brain chased it so much long after the money was gone. The casino didn't get me addicted. It was my brain that got me addicted. Let's take it back to chasing the high. Once your dopamine spikes that high, normal life becomes boring. Family time, you don't even want to think about it. Sleep, you can't even sleep without getting that dopamine high. And then you can also go for long hours without food. I noticed that I was eating less and less, and it didn't bother me at the time. And then work, you know what happened to my job. I told you all about it. And all of this, it feels dull, when you have to do your daily life activities, they feel so dull compared to that rush, compared to that adrenaline when you're sitting in front of that slot machine and you're busy spinning your money away. This is the reason why gamblers seem reckless. We're not chasing the money. We're chasing the chemical that we cannot produce naturally anymore without the gambling. Because the gambling itself sort of rewires you and you depend on it for your adrenaline, for your dopamine, for your happiness. It becomes like your happy drug of some sort. And it's such a dangerous drug to live by. Well, people think that gamblers love winning. And let me tell you something. It's got nothing to do with that. Absolutely nothing to do with the winning. The truth is that we love that feeling before the win, or actually before the loss, let me say, because we love the anticipation, the near misses, the almost, like I almost won it. That maybe this last spin or maybe this time it might be different. You kind of get what I'm saying? And that's the dopamine talking right there. Let's talk about the disconnection from reality. Gambling changes the brain's decision making. So basically, you cannot make like the best decisions ever. Your decisions will always fall back to chasing that rush, the adrenaline and the dopamine. You lose the ability to assess the risks involved. So your brain cannot assess the risks properly. You find yourself going all in without even, considering the risks that are involved with losing that money that you have at the moment. And then you start also believing in patterns that are not real. Like how I believe that if you wear a touch of red, you were going to be lucky. You also start trusting in luck. You trust luck more than you trust your logic. I used to tell myself that just one more deposit, I'm very, very close. And, at the time I wasn't even close. I tell myself that just one more deposit, I'm very, very close to winning. And I wasn't. And I used to tell myself that, I can win it all back. Anything can happen. I'm very lucky. But I found that, I was not so lucky. It was just the dopamine talking. As a gambling addict, you also find yourself making emotional decisions disguised as strategy. I don't know if any one of you can relate to that. I can relate so deep. Now, let's talk about the lies and the self-defense mode. I know if you've watched this video so far, you can relate to these aspects. When your brain becomes dependent on the dopamine rush, you start lying a lot, not to be evil or dark or something like that, but you lie to protect your access to that dopamine. You lie in order for you to be able to keep it going on, to keep on chasing that adrenaline rush and the dopamine. So you start by lying to your partner, you lie to your friends, to your family. Well, for different reasons, of course. To some people, you can lie to get some money, and you also start lying at your job. You remember what happened to my job because of my endless lies. Oh, well. And you also lie to yourself. You start lying to your bank account as well, saying that I'll win it back. I'll definitely bounce back just this one last time. My brain became a defense lawyer, defending and protecting my addiction at all costs. Now, let's talk about the withdrawals. Most people don't know this, but gambling withdrawals are real. They come with a lot of irritability. You get some mood swings, you get some insomnia, anxiety. You shake endlessly and you don't even know why you're shaking. And you also dream about the slot machines and you get all these obsessive thoughts about gambling itself. And you also obsess over getting more and more money in order for you to burn away via gambling. But why does this happen? Well, this is because our brains are now chemically dependent on the thrill. Remember that the thrill is not normal. The first time ever that you did it, you experienced that violent hit of dopamine and then it sort of rewired your brains. So now your brain is chemically controlled. It's dependent on the thrill. It's dependent on the dopamine rush. It can no longer function on its own. So if you're also fighting a gambling addiction, I need you to know that you're not avoiding gambling because of your willpower, but you are fighting biology. You're fighting a psychology here. Let's talk about the online gambling effect. Like I told you in the beginning that I was addicted to casino gambling and I managed to stop that, but I went right into online gambling. So let's talk about the online gambling effect. Casinos were dangerous, yes, but online gambling, that's fatal. That's a different beast on its own because it's got instant access. There's no closing time. It's basically a 24-hour cycle. And also you can place endless bets. It's also very private and discreet. You can be able to do it without anyone even noticing you. And it's got unlimited dopamine. Oh, it's crazy. It's wild. You see, with online gambling, your brain doesn't even get a chance to cool down. It's pure slot machine hypnosis. Well, for me, online gambling didn't just speed up my addiction, it deepened it. It became the only place where my brain felt alive. Now, the breaking point, whew, that's a hectic one. Eventually, the psychology changes again. So you stop gambling to win now, but you gamble to escape the pain of losing. I don't know whether this makes sense at all, but you stop gambling to win some money, but you just gamble to escape the pain of losing. But you end up losing even more. I found that I gambled to numb the pain. I gambled to drown out the guilt that I was feeling. To forget the debts, and to forget myself and the problems that I had put myself in. The breaking point is the scariest. This is the point whereby you gamble to feel absolutely nothing, to numb everything, and that's the scariest stage. Now, let's talk about the rewiring. Here's the good news. The brain can rewire itself. Isn't that good news? Yes, absolutely. The brain can rewire itself. But it's not overnight though, and it's not easy, but it can. When I stopped gambling, my dopamine levels began to stabilize and reality came back, clarity came back, sleep came back, and I came back to myself again. Recovery isn't about willpower. It's about rewiring your psychology slowly, painfully, but permanently. Look, if you're watching this and you feel stuck, remember, your brain isn't broken. It's addicted. It's addicted to the dopamine hits. It's addicted to the rush. It's addicted to the gambling itself. Addiction can be rewired. It does take time, but addiction can be rewired. I'm Angelica, and this is my final chance. And trust me, you still have yours. Thank you all so much for watching. Click like and subscribe to my channel if you found this video helpful.